Hi, I'm Chike Coleman from the Wheelchair Watcher. That's Chuck Koplinski from the News Gazette and the Illinois Times. And this is Real Reviews, the Cinematic Underground, the show where we talk about movies and sometimes TV shows and other things. This week, we have two prolific directors directing two biography films, more or less. And there's something I want to say up top, off of the cuff, about this set of movies. This is really the story of two men who are doing the right thing at great cost, personally and professionally, to themselves. And I think that's a really interesting theme that we get to play with here in this week's episode, because this week we are reviewing Snowden, and we're also reviewing Sully. I want to start with Sully, however, first. Directed by Clint Eastwood, starring Anna Gunn, as well as Aaron Eckhart. And this is the film.
How about Tom Hanks?
Oh, and Tom Hanks. Yeah, he's nothing. No, he's just been there for decades. And Tom Hanks, of course. But Tom Hanks, Aaron Eckhart. We have. Let's see. Who am I missing? There's one other.
Laura Linney.
Laura Linney, and then there. Who did I just say? The chick from Breaking Bad.
Anna Gunn.
Anna Gunn, yes. So, the film centers around, of course, that fateful day in 2009 in which Captain Sully Sullenberger takes that flight from, what was it, North Carolina to Charlotte?
Doesn't matter. He took off from New York.
He took off from New York to go to Charlotte. And, of course, there was birds in the engine, which caused the engine to fail, and thus land on the Hudson. But this is about so much more than that. This is about the aftermath and the personal and professional cost at stake for Sully Sullenberger and Tom Hanks. In my opinion, we say this every time we watch a Tom Hanks movie that's moderately good, might be the best performance of his career. I want to put that out there because he has to do something that he's very good at that I don't get to see him do a lot. He has to do a lot of subtlety. But he's very good at playing the honest man. And I think that's what makes this film succeed so much, is Clint Eastwood, for once, is more restrained in his technique than he usually would be. Usually, most of his films that I've seen so far are very frantic, very closed in on their subject, but he kind of pulls back a bit here. He kind of lets the story breathe a bit more than I'm used to seeing, which I found to be very, very helpful in understanding what Sully was emotionally going through, as well as the professional stakes of what would happen if they found him liable for the plane crash, and saying that there would have been other routes that could have been taken. Aaron Eckhart also has a strong performance in this film. He's not just a penny supporting player. He really does have a pathos of his own and feelings and thoughts about what occurred on that day. And Tom Hanks does really well in not only supporting those thoughts and assertions, but also giving the man his due, which is what I think the actual Captain Sully Sullenberger did in that case. I really found the strength of, and the beauty of this film to be in not just the simplicity of what we know happened, but in how those emotions are addressed, what his fears are, what the fears of the co-pilot are. All of that is very, very uniquely photographed through cinematography, as well as read emotionally on the faces of Hanks and Eckhart. I really love this movie. Chuck, what did you think of Sully?
A really solid film, no doubt about it. I still like Hanks better in Castaway, but that's another conversation. He is great here, though, because his role at times requires a lot of thinking moments, where he's observing and thinking, and those are difficult to do. You wouldn't think they are, but you can't catch yourself thinking. It's, as you say, a very subtle thing that has to be pulled off here. There's a lot of subtext going on here. And I think you can read this film in a couple of different ways. Sullenberger comes off as a guy out of time. You know, we live in an era, a generation in which it's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you handed me a cup of coffee and it burnt me. Oh, that's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, something happened to me in my childhood, and so I went on a shooting spree 30 years later. It's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Sully is not that way. He's
No.
very responsible. He's honest. He has an honor about himself as far as his job is concerned. You do your job as best as you can. If it's your fault, you say it's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you stand up for what's right. And I think he finds himself very much lost in this generation of it's not my fault. And I think that's a great deal of what's going on there when the Security Council calls him on the carpet.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, I think you can draw connections to a couple of Eastwood's latest films, American Sniper and Gran Torino and $1 Million Baby. All those main characters have a certain honor about them, and when you throw them out in the main society, they're lost.
Yeah.
And it stuns them that other people don't follow that code. And I think that that's really what this film is about. This guy standing by what he's all about. And I think also Eastwood. This talks about Eastwood too. I mean, in this era of special effects, overblown, overwrought films. You know, this is a guy who's still doing it the old-fashioned way. You know, yeah, he depends on these other guys depend on computer effects and all this stuff. He just tells his story. You know, and so he's got to feel like Sully as though the odd man out in Hollywood, I would think. Even though there are quite a few special effects in the film for the crash, and they're done very well.
Extremely well.
Yeah.
And as you say, this film is definitely about the integrity of a man.
Yeah.
And you'll find that theme concurrent throughout both of the films we review today. It's about the integrity of doing the honest thing, doing the good thing, and I think that Tom Hanks, again, pulls off one of his best performances. I'm curious to know why you think Castaway is better, though, just out of curiosity.
Because he has to carry that whole thing for about an hour.
Yeah, that is true, he does.
You know, it's just him and that volleyball. You know, and that's not an easy feat. I mean, he's got 45 minutes to an hour where the whole thing is on his shoulders. And I've always been impressed by roles like that. Tom Hardy, when he did that thing last year, I think it was called Lock or something, where he's in the car the entire time. I always like those types of performances, those setups.
And even Buried is the same way.
Sure, very much. And Ryan Reynolds, and he impressed me in that film. He hadn't really impressed me before that.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's something about that level of integrity that these people in all the films we just mentioned, they're just trying to do their honest best.
Well, but you also made a point of Hanks being able to play the honest man.
Yeah.
And he's probably the best person at that. Last year's Bridge of Spies, which I think was incredibly overrated.
Yeah.
He nails, though, that in the first scene. He's an insurance guy.
Yeah.
And he's very straightforward about what he does and how he goes about it. And even though he is an insurance guy, which is kind of shady at times, he's straightforward. Yeah. So even within that atmosphere, this is the guy to believe. And I think the strongest thing about that film was that you would believe that character would go to the great lengths that he did.
Absolutely.
And you don't believe that if Hanks doesn't pull it off.
Yeah. And he definitely does pull it off here. I would say that this movie comes highly recommended for me for people to see, just on the sheer wrought emotion of learning what really went behind that whole event that day, and also what was the aftermath that we weren't seeing, because we were seeing him smiling and laughing on Letterman, when in reality, he's still, kind of beating himself up over, did I miss anything?
Right.
Did I get anything wrong? Is there something that I wasn't thinking about that could have happened? There's a very, very pivotal scene where he's in the plane as it's submerged in the water. Everyone is left, and people are telling him, Sully, you gotta go. Sully, you gotta go. And he's like, no, I want to make sure I haven't missed anything. I want to make sure that everybody's all right. I want to make sure that I'm continuing to do my very best to make sure everyone is secure. And that is what gave him the label of an American hero. And what makes him a good man in general, I think. Mm-hmm. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I just loved it. Hanks did his absolute best in this film, I think. Mm-hmm. If he gets any better than this, then I'll be shocked. Mm-hmm. So that's our review of Sully. You can see it in theaters now. Mm-hmm. Next up, I would like to talk about the latest film from Oliver Stone, and that is Snowden, directed by Oliver Stone, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Shailene Woodley. So many different people.
Timothy Oliphant.
Timothy Oliphant's in there. Nicolas Cage is in
Evans.
there. Grace what?
No, Race Evans, the English actor.
Oh, Race Evans is in there, yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of important.
Yeah. So the plot behind this film is that we're looking at the years prior to Edward Snowden releasing all those documents that clearly show that the U.S. is spying on its citizens for the purposes of preventing or taking down any internal terror cell. I'm going to first start out with something that may not be obvious. And that is the fact that even though Joseph Gordon-Levitt is fantastic in this film, and I believe him as Edward Snowden, my main problem with him comes in the form of showing too much in terms of Edward Snowden's personality, in the sense that that accent that he puts on, it kind of takes me out of the movie a bit every time I hear his version of Snowden speak, even though it's accurate to what Edward Snowden actually sounds like. I believe every action that he takes in this film related to the analytical things he does for terror, once you figure out that he can't be in special forces, which that's a great moment. I didn't see that coming at all. When he meets his girlfriend, played by the lovely Shailene Woodley, and they have their interactions, I believe that all that feels genuine to me, but the accent kind of pulled me out of the movie just a bit. But everything else that he goes into in terms of looking at the different documents that he needs to look at in terms of what cells may exist where, and when he realizes what really goes into the analytics of looking at, terror cells here and abroad, and realizes all the work that the NSA goes into to try and find out what people are up to and when. That's all great. Nicolas Cage actually does surprisingly well in his limited role in this film as a, what would you call him? I don't want to say not a cryptographer.
He's an analyst of some
He's
sort.
He's an analyst of some sort.
Analyzes data code.
Old code, we'll say. He's a historic coder, I suppose. That's the title I'll give him. He's very good at advising Edward Snowden in what the NSA is actually like, what kind of stuff he's getting into, where the lines of right and wrong kind of blur. We also learned something really personal about Snowden in that he's affected by epilepsy. That's not really a spoiler. And how that affects him and his work, and how his personal life is affected by his work is also something really brilliant that Stone manages to tap into quite well. I want to take a brief second to commend actress Shailene Woodley for her work in the film, because she's given a lot more to do than just being the romantic love interest. She's clearly on the other side of the political spectrum to Snowden. Snowden is all about country. She is all about freedom and libertarianism. And the two actually complement each other quite well. And when the going gets tough in terms of all the analytics that Snowden has to do for his job and for his work, the fights that they have, the discussions that they have surrounding what needs to be done when is really thrilling. And it becomes a bit of a relationship movie for a bit, but that's still fascinating because you know how much it ties into the overall picture of who the man is. There are scenes in 2013 leading to the setup of his reveal of all this information that he has sneakily taken away from the NSA. And
sneakily, I like that.
Well, he does though. He sneaks out information that he eventually uses for reporting, and all this is really strong stuff. If you're not into computers and analytics, you may be easily bored by this film, but Snowden as a person and as a character in this film is very compelling. I, again, have to praise Shailene Woodley for her performance, because it's much more than I ever expected of her character or her as an actress. It's the best work I've seen her do since The Spectacular Now in, what was that, 2013?
Yeah, and The Descendants.
And The Descendants with Clooney, which was also really great. But she gives her strongest performance here, I think, and puts herself outside of the shadow of that Divergent series she dreadfully signed a contract for. Chuck, what did you think of Snowden, Oliver Stone's latest film?
I liked it. I liked it. As with most of Stone's films, though, you come out wondering just how much truth you were told and how much exaggeration you were presented. I find that Stone's films make me curious to go and find out more, to try and get a even perspective of whatever it is he's talking about. He always has an agenda, and that's fine. All filmmakers do, even those who deny that they do. They all have an agenda, and there's nothing wrong with that. My problem with his films, though, is that sometimes he goes off on such tangents that are so obviously wrong that it calls into credibility everything else in the film,
Like
which is usually based on foundation. Mostly the JFK stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Here, I don't really know much about Snowden to be able to say, oh, well, that seemed to be a glaring problem to me. But, you know, his reputation precedes him, and you have to question these things. I think it's an entertaining film. I didn't think it to be that entertaining. I mean, it's kind of a dry subject matter. But I thought that visually they did some interesting things to show you the reach of the internet and the reach of the NSA and the reach of the Russian Secret Service agencies and just how invasive they are in everything. And that to me was frightening. Absolutely, positively frightening. I mean, I had a pretty good idea of what they could do, but there are a couple things here that surprised me as to how much they can, if they want, know about all of us. And that's, you know, that genie's out of the bottle, and that's never going to change now, unfortunately. But to me, that was the most frightening thing, and obviously the impetus for Snowden to do what he does.
I have a best scene in this film, and I have a worst scene in this film. The best scene in this film for me is the explanation scene with the far-reachingness of the internet. Just that one connection to that one connection to the dentist, to that one connection to the cousin, to how they affect that financial banker, who is actually an actor I was familiar with, surprisingly. He's in a soap opera called Emmerdale, which is in the UK, and he has a bit part here as a banker. But that whole segment I loved very much. The thing that I did not love, his first superior officer, who he kind of maintains, I wouldn't even call it a friendship. What would you call it?
A working relationship.
Some sort of working relationship that they have together. When he's confronted in that room after...
The conference room?
Yeah. I hate that scene so much. Because it's almost like in that scene that character is blackmailing Snowden.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
He is.
And I'm just like, that feels a little bit overly villainous, overly excessive to me.
Well, I did do some reading after the film, and that character is fictional. Apparently, he's a combination of other people that Snowden worked with while he was at the CIA. And they did point out that his name is O'Brien, which is the same character who's the overlord or the guy who oversees things in 1984 as well. So that is, and also I understand what you're saying about the scene, especially when his head just seems to be looming over him. That is a little bit of overkill, and that's always where Stone gets into trouble.
Yeah, and that to me was the only really like glaring moment of the entire film. I like this film. I didn't go into it knowing a lot about Snowden himself.
Me either.
But like you said, it did get me curious about, you know, what more can I learn? What more can I educate myself on to feel adequately versed in this topic? Because I met a member of the audience after the screening, and he was a total, I'll call him a Snowden file. He had a Snowden for President t-shirt on and seemed to believe in whatever the quote-unquote cause was. Now, me being blind to pretty much all that occurred with Snowden and only having that movie for background, I could understand why he would be happy or,
Supportive?
supportive of Snowden's efforts. But at the same time, I'm wondering, even though we were freed from the lack of knowledge of something, what did we lose as well? Mm-hmm. Nobody looked at the loss of that as well. It was just
the film didn't.
Yeah, the film itself.
And that's where Stone errs, I think. You've got to give us the rest of the story.
You got to give us both sides. So there was more than just, he freed us from the shackles of knowing that we were being wiretapped. Thank God for Snowden. I understand those who believe that and support that ideology. However, what did we lose because we now know that? Are things now even more tougher for us? Did it make us more suspicious? Did it make us put up more personal guards to be, aware of what the NSA might or already is doing?
Well, if we believe the film, it seems to be saying that it doesn't matter what we do.
Yeah.
They know, and they have the network to find out whatever they want.
And how does that make you feel?
Yeah, whatever. I got nothing to hide.
Yeah, for me personally, I don't feel violated by it at all. I mean, if I had something really bad going on, the NSA would find me, and I would, in a moment of the humanity of it all, say like, okay, cool. I'd probably be like Sully Sullenberger. If I messed up, I messed up. If I didn't, I didn't. So in that sense, I feel like the film, as you say, is a bit one-sided, and I would like to understand at least the other half of the story. What other blowback are we missing?
Yeah, and there was a great documentary last year called Citizen 4, which does tell the other side, or gives a more, I think, much more information, at least, as far as what happened with him.
That may be something I have to check out.
Yeah.
Are there any TV shows, since we're now upon the fall TV season, that you're excited for? That you want to talk to the audience about?
I'm looking forward to what happens when Supergirl goes to the CW. That and, The Flash and how these interactions are going to occur. Because obviously crossovers are coming our way. Mm-hmm. There's a Billy Bob Thornton show on Amazon I want to watch. I'm trying to think what it's called, but he plays a lawyer that I believe is going up against a huge conglomeration. Oh, I know what it's called. It's called Goliath. That's what it's called. So I'm looking forward to that. And also The Exorcist showed on Fox. We'll see what we can do with that. It'll just be great to see Gina Davis again.
Yeah. For me, my personal choices are The Flash. I want to say that The Good Place with Kristen Bell and Ted Danson.
I'm looking forward to that, too. I like her, and that looks like a cute premise.
And maybe, just maybe, I'm not sure on this yet, This Is Us.
It's funny you say that, because I saw commercials to that, and that looks interesting. That looks very much in the same vein as Parenthood, which I liked and miss.
And then, of course, Luke Cage and Iron Fist.
Yes, that's true, too.
So that's what I'm most looking forward to. I am moderately curious about Crisis in 16s.
I am, too. You have to watch it.
But I don't know if there's anything that can be done to draw me into that.
Woody Allen and Miley Cyrus together. I don't see how you need anything more.
True. True. I don't know. It just doesn't...
It's only 6 episodes. They're each a half hour apiece.
Well, at least...
You can do this. It's 3 hours.
At least it's not Lars von Trier and Miley Cyrus.
So,
Then I'd feel a bit weird.
Well, I'd watch that, too. What has he been doing lately? I got to look him up.
But in a couple of weeks, we got some really great movies coming out. Namely among them, Girl on the Train, and... That stars Emily Blunt and who I now like to call fake Jennifer Lawrence.
And who's fake Jennifer Lawrence?
Haley something, I believe.
Oh, Haley Atwell? No, Haley, there's a huge, Bennett.
Yeah, Haley Bennett.
It's a huge thing on Vanity Fair on her this month.
Now, who is she? Have you seen her in anything? Because I have not.
She's been kind of in supporting roles, but she's got quite a few things coming up in this fall. She's in The Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
She's also in Girl on the Train, and she's in something else coming out at Christmas. It's like she's got 4 movies coming out within the next 6 months.
Jeez.
So yeah, she is the. Oh, she's in the. Keep talking, then it'll come back to me.
I'm also excited about Sing as well, which has a lot of my favorite actors. You got Hugh Jackman in that, and I believe, what was that? Taron Egerton, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a great animated film, it looks like. I'm also curious about, there's a couple of things actually.
And your mom?
Very good.
Okay.
They've got a couple of things that just really are weirding me out. Like, there's a couple of cop dramas that are coming in, and I'm really curious about Bleed for this.
Bleed for this.
Miles Teller, Aaron Eckhart.
And what's that
Boxing
about?
movie.
What?
Boxing movie.
Oh, okay. We're back to okay. We're on movies now, not TV.
Was that TV still? Were we
I don't know. I thought we were still talking about TV. I guess not. Okay.
Yeah, when we went to Girl on the Train, we went to movies.
You're right. I'm sorry. Okay.
But yeah, I'm really excited about Bleed for this. I've seen the trailer for that like 6 times because they show it every time I'm in the theater now.
I have not seen it at all.
Oh well.
I try to avoid the previews though.
You'll be surprised when it comes out. You'll be like, oh, okay. It's better than that other one that Robert De Niro did.
Yes, Haley Bennett also is going to be in the upcoming Warren Beatty film.
Oh, I want to see that.
Rules Don't Apply. So yeah, she's going to be all over the place here.
Very soon.
Yeah, she was also in The Equalizer. So that's why she's in Magnificent Seven. Denzel Washington and the same director.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. And I want to say Seth MacFarlane is coming out with something on
Let's hope not.
Fox. Some sort of
on Fox. Now we're back to TV. Okay.
Something live action that he's doing. And I know he's in Sing as well.
No, he's just immature. I wouldn't call him insane.
No, he's in Sing.
Oh, he's in Sing. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're looking forward to Sing. Tell me what you think about The Lethal Weapon.
It's going to be trash.
Really?
I don't know. I can't.
For some odd reason, and I am not familiar with the actor, but the actor who plays the Mel Gibson part, just from the commercial, seems like he might have something. Yeah, it's a completely misguided thing, but for him, I might watch a couple episodes.
I would have been happier with the Beverly Hills Cop TV show that they had proposed years ago. Speaking of which, Eddie Murphy is making a comeback. He's going to be in Mr. Church.
Well, I don't know if he's making a comeback or not. I don't know if you realize this, but Mr. Church was released yesterday.
Was it?
Yeah, it's playing in, I think, 2 or 3 theaters in Chicago. It was not open for reviews. It's playing a couple places in LA, a couple places in New York. That film has been released.
What?
So I think it's a bit of a turd.
Just when I started to have a little bit of hope.
Well, that's why I'm here, to crush you. Hey, Lars von Trier's next film is 2018, The House That Jack Built. A serial killer reflects on a decade-long homicidal spree in the state of Washington. No casting yet. I can't wait.
Well,
on that note,
if it's not one thing, it's another.
Yep.
So next week, what are you wanting to talk about? What's interesting you for next week? Is there anything good?
The Magnificent Seven.
Yeah. So maybe that I'll see on Sunday for the week following this, because my sister's getting married next week. So I won't be able to do a show, but the week following that, we could do Magnificent Seven and Girl on the Train, I think.
No, Deepwater Horizon.
Deepwater Horizon, the Mark Wahlberg pipeline film.
And the Queen of Katwe, the chess film with Lupita Nyong'o. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so good stuff. We're starting to get the good stuff here.
We're starting to get the good stuff, and that means screeners are coming, which
Let's
is why
hope
I'm
so.
excited. So until then, you can find Chuck's work at thenewsgazette.com or theillinoistimes.com. And you can find my work at wheelchairwatcher.com. I'm still finding my way through reviewing all the summer movies, but I'll get to Snowden very, very soon. Right now I'm finishing up The Infiltrator. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye, guys.